Welcome, everyone, to the English Proficiency Podcast, a dedicated series meticulously designed to enhance your language skills in the most comprehensive way possible. I am your host, and I am absolutely delighted and genuinely enthusiastic to embark on this significant and transformative learning journey with each and every one of you today. Our aim is to provide you with actionable insights that you can apply immediately to see tangible improvements.
And I am your co-host. In this truly comprehensive series, we shall methodically and thoroughly explore the 4 fundamental pillars that underpin all effective language learning: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Each of these skills is interconnected, yet each demands specific attention and dedicated practice. Today, we commence our in-depth exploration with a skill that forms the undeniable bedrock, the absolute foundation of all effective and meaningful human communication: listening. It is the entry point for all understanding.
Indeed, it is absolutely crucial from the outset to clarify precisely what we mean by listening in the context of language proficiency and effective communication. We are emphatically not merely talking about hearing. Hearing, as many of you already know, is fundamentally a passive, largely involuntary, and physiological process. It is the simple biological act of sound waves entering your ears, traveling through the auditory canal, vibrating the eardrums, and being processed by the brain as raw auditory data. Your auditory nerves transmit these signals automatically. It is a sensory input, much like seeing or smelling, that happens almost without conscious effort. You hear the ambient sounds around you, the hum of a refrigerator, the distant traffic, the chirping of birds, without necessarily focusing on them.
What we're discussing today, and what is truly transformative for not only your English language acquisition, but also for building deeper, more meaningful interpersonal relationships in all aspects of your life, is active listening. Active listening, in stark contrast to passive hearing, is a conscious, deliberate, and highly engaged cognitive process. It involves fully concentrating your mental faculties on what is being said, going far beyond just the individual words themselves. It encompasses understanding the overarching message, discerning the underlying emotions, and grasping the true intent and purpose behind those words. It demands significant mental effort, focus, and energy. But the long-term rewards, both for your practical English proficiency and for your ability to connect with others on a profound level, are truly immense and far-reaching. It is a skill that pays dividends in every area of your life.
Let us delve into greater detail about why active listening is so profoundly and universally crucial, especially for those aiming for high proficiency in English. Firstly, and perhaps most immediately beneficial for our audience, it significantly, and I mean significantly, improves your comprehension. When you engage in active listening, you are not just letting sounds wash over you. You are actively processing information much more deeply, more thoroughly, and more systematically. This deeper processing makes it considerably easier to understand, to internalize, and subsequently to remember what you have heard. Whether it's a complex academic lecture, a rapid-fire conversation, or a news broadcast, your brain is actively building connections and meaning.
Secondly, active listening inherently and powerfully builds stronger relationships. Consider any interaction, whether you are engaged in a casual, personal conversation with a close friend, a family member, or a new acquaintance, or whether you are participating in a critical, high-stakes discussion within a professional boardroom or an academic seminar. People, universally, have a deep-seated need to feel genuinely heard, understood, and validated. Active listening unequivocally demonstrates respect, profound empathy, and a genuine interest in the other person's thoughts and feelings. This fosters trust, builds strong rapport, and strengthens all forms of human connection. When someone feels truly listened to, they are more likely to open up, share more, and trust you.
Thirdly, and this point cannot be overstated in its practical implications, active listening actively and consistently prevents misunderstandings. Think about how often miscommunications, ranging from minor everyday slip-ups to major, damaging errors, have arisen in conversations, in business dealings, or even in formal written communications, simply because one party was not truly listening to the other, or gravely misinterpreted what was being conveyed. Active listening clarifies intentions, reduces ambiguity, and significantly minimizes errors in communication, leading to smoother interactions and more successful outcomes. It acts as a preventative measure against confusion and conflict.
And fourthly, and this is directly tailored to our core audience of English language learners, active listening is absolutely paramount, foundational, and indispensable for acquiring new vocabulary, for grasping intricate and sometimes challenging grammatical structures, and for internalizing natural speech patterns, authentic pronunciation, and the subtle rhythms and intonations of English. You simply cannot effectively speak English with fluency and confidence, nor can you write accurately and expressively if you cannot effectively and thoroughly listen to and comprehend the language first. Listening provides the essential, rich, and authentic input necessary for all other output skills to flourish. It is the fuel for your language engine.
So, the critical and perhaps most compelling question arises: how do we consciously and consistently transition from merely hearing the sounds of English to actively listening to and comprehending the depth of its meaning? Let us systematically break down some key components, practical strategies, and actionable techniques that you can begin to implement immediately, starting from today, in your everyday interactions and language study. The first, and arguably most foundational step, which often proves to be the most challenging in our modern, distraction-filled world, is to give your full, undivided attention. This means committing to being fully present in the moment.
This means making a resolute and conscious effort to eliminate all possible distractions from your immediate environment. If you are engaged in a live, face-to-face conversation, consciously put away your smartphone, silence or turn off any distracting notifications, and if at all possible, turn off the television or radio in the background. If you are participating in a video call for work or study, close any unnecessary browser tabs or applications on your computer that are not directly relevant to the conversation. Make clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive eye contact with the speaker. These deliberate actions overtly signal to the speaker that they have your complete, unwavering focus and that you value what they are saying.
In the context of consuming English media, such as a podcast, an audio lesson, an online lecture, or even watching an English film or documentary for practice, this directive translates to finding a quiet, dedicated, and comfortable environment where you know you will not be interrupted. Use good quality headphones or earbuds to further minimize external noise interference and to enhance the clarity and nuance of the sound. Treat your listening time as a serious and dedicated study session, giving it the reverence it deserves rather than treating it as a background activity. This focused attention dramatically boosts comprehension.
The second crucial component, and this requires considerable self-discipline and mental training, is to actively resist the powerful, often automatic urge to interrupt or to immediately formulate your own response while the other person is still speaking. This is an extremely common psychological pitfall for most people, even native speakers. Our minds frequently race ahead, planning precisely what we will say next, constructing our rebuttal, preparing our witty anecdote, or simply forming our next question, rather than truly absorbing, processing, and understanding what is currently being said to us by the speaker.
It is absolutely vital for effective communication to allow the speaker to complete their thoughts, to finish their sentences, and to deliver their entire message without any premature interruption. Cultivate the habit of taking a deliberate, brief moment, perhaps a mental count of 1 or 2 seconds, after they have finished speaking before you formulate and deliver your reply. This brief, respectful pause not only demonstrates profound respect for the speaker and their contribution, but also grants you invaluable mental time to fully process their complete message, considering all its nuances and implications before you articulate your intelligent and relevant reply. It transforms a conversational volley into a true dialogue.
The third indispensable strategy, and one that adds incredible depth to your understanding, is to meticulously observe nonverbal cues. While this is naturally more applicable and overtly evident in face-to-face interactions, where you can clearly see body language, facial expressions, gestures, and posture, it is still a significant and often overlooked part of understanding the complete, holistic message in any form of communication. Even in audio-only contexts, these cues manifest in subtle ways that are equally important.
Even in audio-only contexts, such as listening to this very podcast, an interview, or a radio drama, the speaker's tone of voice, their deliberate and often meaningful pauses, their precise emphasis on certain words or phrases, and their overall cadence or rhythm of speech convey a wealth of information that goes far beyond the literal dictionary meaning of their spoken words. Pay extremely close attention to these subtle vocal nuances. They often reveal true feelings, underlying intentions, levels of certainty, or even sarcasm. For example, a rising intonation can indicate a question, while a falling intonation can indicate certainty.
For a clear and practical example, consider a speaker who might verbally state, "I am perfectly fine," but their tone might be flat, hesitant, strained, or accompanied by a deep sigh. An active listener quickly picks up on these subtle, often contradictory signals, gaining a much deeper and more accurate understanding of the speaker's true emotional state or underlying message despite the words chosen. It is like having a secret decoder ring for human emotion.
Our fourth critical strategy, and one that acts as a powerful feedback loop in communication, is clarification and paraphrasing. Once the speaker has finished expressing a thought, or during natural and appropriate pauses in their discourse, it can be incredibly helpful and profoundly beneficial to reflect back what you believe you have heard, articulated clearly in your own words. This is not about repeating their words verbatim, but about demonstrating comprehension.
You can initiate this powerful technique by saying something like, "So, if I understand correctly, you are saying that the main challenge we face is X because of factor Y, and this requires us to prioritize Z?" Or, "What I hear you saying is that the project requires more significant resources than initially estimated, particularly in terms of personnel and budget. Is that an accurate summary?" This technique serves multiple vital purposes. It not only confirms your understanding and allows for immediate correction of any misinterpretations, but also overtly signals to the speaker that you are genuinely listening, actively processing, and thoughtfully engaging with their message, rather than merely waiting for your turn to speak. This process builds immense trust, strengthens communication bonds, and ensures accuracy.
The fifth essential technique, which is closely related to clarification and also designed to deepen understanding, is asking thoughtful, clarifying questions. These are not questions designed to challenge, to debate, to interrogate, or to test the speaker. Instead, they are genuinely intended to gain more specific, detailed information, to delve deeper into a particular point that might be unclear, or to ensure you have a complete and accurate picture of precisely what is being conveyed by the speaker. For instance, you might politely and constructively ask, "Could you please elaborate further on that specific point about the budget implications for the second quarter?" Or when you mention restructuring the team, do you mean a complete organizational overhaul, or are we primarily discussing a reallocation of existing roles and responsibilities? These questions should, wherever possible, be open-ended, encouraging the speaker to provide more detailed explanations, examples, or context, rather than simply eliciting a concise yes or no answer. This open-ended approach invites richer information. Sixth, and this truly elevates listening from a mere skill to an art form, is to actively practice empathy. Try your absolute best to put yourself emotionally and intellectually in the speaker's shoes. Attempt to understand their perspective, their feelings, their underlying motivations, their frame of reference, and the broader context from which they are speaking. This does not necessarily mean you have to agree with their viewpoint, their opinions, or their conclusions. Instead, it means you acknowledge, respect, and genuinely seek to comprehend their position, even if it is vastly different from your own. Empathy is especially crucial and powerful when engaging in discussions about sensitive, complex, emotionally charged topics, or situations where there might be disagreement.
It allows for a more compassionate, understanding, and ultimately more productive and constructive dialogue, even when there are fundamental differences in opinion. It actively helps bridge potential communication gaps that might arise from differing experiences or beliefs. This creates a space for genuine connection, even if consensus isn't immediately reached.
The seventh strategy, and this is highly beneficial for learning and retention, involves taking selective notes, particularly when you are listening to extended lectures, webinars, important meetings, or longer presentations in English. Note-taking is not about attempting to write down every single word that is spoken. That approach is often counterproductive, leading to distraction and superficial processing. Instead, it is about actively identifying, synthesizing, and jotting down key words, the main ideas, and the absolutely critical points being presented. Think of it as creating a concise roadmap of the information. This active process of note-taking directly and powerfully engages your brain in a way that passive listening simply does not. It forces you to summarize, to categorize, and to synthesize information in real time, which in turn significantly deepens your comprehension and dramatically improves your long-term retention of the material. You might utilize a system of bullet points, create visual concept maps, or even employ the highly structured Cornell note-taking system. Whatever organizational method works most effectively for your individual learning style and the context of the information. The key is active engagement. Eighth, and this particular strategy is tremendously relevant and empowering for all English language learners, is to consciously and actively listen for new vocabulary and grammatical structures. When you encounter an unfamiliar word, rather than immediately stopping the audio or reaching for a dictionary, first, try your absolute best to infer its meaning from the surrounding context of the sentence or the broader conversation. This develops your inferential skills, which are crucial in real-world communication.
After attempting to infer, make a quick mental note of the new word, or even a very brief physical note if the situation allows for it, without disrupting your listening flow. Then, commit to looking it up later, perhaps after the listening session is complete. Similarly, pay meticulous attention to how native speakers construct their sentences. Observe how they use prepositions, how different verb tenses are correctly applied, how conjunctions connect ideas, and how phrasal verbs function naturally and effortlessly in real-time conversation. This close observation is how you absorb and internalize authentic, idiomatic language use.
The ninth technique, which requires significant self-awareness and a commitment to objectivity, is to be acutely aware of your own inherent biases and preconceived notions. We all possess unique mental filters, established belief systems, and personal experiences through which we interpret incoming information. These inherent biases can, regrettably, sometimes prevent us from truly hearing what someone is genuinely saying, often distorting the message to fit our existing beliefs or expectations, rather than allowing us to absorb the information as it is intended.
Consciously challenge yourself to momentarily set aside your own opinions, judgments, and personal beliefs, and genuinely listen to the speaker's perspective, even if it differs greatly or even radically from your own worldview. This ability to listen objectively without immediately filtering through your own predispositions is a clear hallmark of truly mature, sophisticated, and exceptionally effective listening. It allows for genuine understanding, even when there is no agreement. It creates a space for learning and growth.
Our 10th and final, yet perhaps most critical, strategy for cultivating superior active listening skills is to practice regularly and to critically reflect on your performance. Active listening is undeniably a skill, and like any complex skill, be it playing a musical instrument, mastering a sport, learning a new craft, or even solving complex mathematical problems, it only improves with consistent, deliberate, and focused practice. There are no shortcuts. Consistent effort yields consistent improvement.
Begin by consciously applying these techniques in your everyday conversations with friends, family, and colleagues. Make it a deliberate effort to listen more attentively in informal settings. Then, progressively extend this practice to consuming a wide variety of English media. Listen to other podcasts on diverse topics, various news broadcasts from different regions, compelling documentaries, engaging audiobooks, and even informal conversations from various English-speaking regions. The more diverse your listening sources, the better your exposure to different accents, vocabulary, and speech speeds, leading to more versatile listening skills.
A highly effective practical exercise is to listen to a short segment of audio, perhaps a news report or a brief interview, and then immediately attempt to summarize it in your own words, either verbally by speaking aloud or in writing by jotting down key points. This specific activity rigorously forces your brain to actively process, synthesize, and retain the information you have just heard, compelling you to move beyond passive reception to active comprehension.
You could also try the challenging yet incredibly beneficial practice of transcribing short audio clips. This incredibly detailed exercise involves listening to a segment and writing down every single word you hear. This meticulous process will meticulously reveal exactly what words or phrases you might be missing or misunderstanding, and it will help you to focus intensely on individual words, the precise sounds, and even the subtle phonetic connections and reductions between them. It is an unparalleled exercise for fine-tuning your auditory discrimination.
Remember, the most important overarching takeaway from today's extensive episode: listening is emphatically not a passive activity. It is an active, dynamic, iterative, and absolutely essential skill that can be developed, refined, and honed to a very high degree of proficiency over consistent time, dedicated effort, and deliberate practice. It is a journey, not a destination.
By applying the numerous techniques and strategies we have meticulously discussed today, giving your full, undivided attention, resolutely resisting the urge to interrupt, diligently observing both verbal and nonverbal cues, intelligently clarifying and paraphrasing to confirm understanding, asking thoughtful, open-ended questions, practicing profound empathy, taking selective, effective notes, actively identifying new vocabulary and grammatical structures, being acutely aware of your own inherent biases, and critically practicing regularly with consistent reflection, you will profoundly transform your ability to understand, to learn, and to connect more deeply and authentically with others.
We sincerely encourage all of you, our dedicated listeners, to begin implementing these powerful strategies starting today. Do not feel overwhelmed. Simply choose just one or two specific techniques that resonated most strongly with you from this episode and make a conscious effort to apply them in your very next conversation or when you are listening to your next podcast, news report, or any English media content. Observe the remarkable difference it makes not only in your immediate comprehension of the spoken word, but also, perhaps even more importantly, in the quality and depth of your interactions with others. You will very likely find that not only do you understand significantly more, but people also respond more positively, more openly, and more genuinely to you. This truly is the profound and far-reaching power of active listening.
Thank you so much for joining us on this comprehensive and insightful inaugural episode of the English Proficiency Podcast. We truly trust that this deep, extended dive into the nuanced art and profound science of active listening has provided you with invaluable insights and highly actionable steps that you can integrate directly into your language learning journey and your daily life.
Join us again next time as we continue our fascinating journey into the intricate and rewarding world of English language acquisition and skill development. We look forward to exploring another crucial aspect of language proficiency with you. Until then, keep listening actively, keep learning diligently, and keep growing profoundly. Goodbye for now, and thank you for your dedicated listening.
Farewell, and embrace the power of active listening.